So let's talk about the causal plane and how you actually change reality, or how reality actually changes. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around this topic, and it's not really that hard to get, but many people have probably not thought too much about it or been exposed to information that has provoked them into thinking in that direction. So I will give my view on it. So there is two ways you can change the world or reality. It's the one way that which is the most, or has been the most common agreed upon way, is to go out there and do something, to act, to actually physically go out there and make a change somehow, whatever it is. Help somebody, do some volunteer work, or even protest, or even try to overthrow governments and whatnot. And so obviously these things makes changes, and you see immediate results from what you have done and what of the actions you have taken, but that is on a small micro level. It's not, if you look at the big picture of it, it hasn't really changed anything really, and that you just have to look at history to understand how that works, because history gives you a big overview. And for many centuries, the mass consciousness has been pretty low level on this planet, and that means that a certain game has been playing itself out, you might call it, a certain theme. And yes, if you are a person who actually manages to raise your consciousness level a lot higher than the mass consciousness and the norm level, your reality will not be the same as other people who live in that norm level, but you're still sort of kind of subject to it either way, because you're in it, but your perception of it will be different, obviously, and you can be happy and untouched by anything that is touching everybody around you and making them upset or unhappy and whatnot. But the point is that the reality, or the world you perceive, is a reflection of not only your own, but to a large degree your own level of consciousness, but also the mass consciousness level, which actually creates the whole illusion, or the whole what we perceive as the physical reality, and how it is built up. Because you can think of it like this: you have a lot of mixed levels of consciousness all around the world, and in every city and every country, and that's also why you have such a mixed physical expression of every city and every country and the whole world. You can, in almost every big city, you can go to very poor neighborhoods with a lot of graffiti and torn down buildings and dangerous people, or you can go to upper class neighborhoods where usually it's much more beautiful and nice, right? So you can say that that's a reflection, because of these people's consciousness level are a little bit higher than those living in the poor neighborhoods. So it becomes like these pockets, or these realities within realities, that is a reflection of the people who inhabit it or live there. So you could say that because the world is so mixed from top to bottom of the level of consciousness, it also has a lot of, the reflection of the world is very mixed. You get everything from the lowest to the highest. which makes it very chaotic and hard to make sense of sometimes. But in the big picture, there has been many revolutions throughout history, but they haven't really changed. New people maybe they took over the throne and the power, but nothing really. I mean, maybe it changed for a little while, but very, very soon it was back to normal again. Some people were slaves, some people were ruling class. It's just the game that's been playing. So nothing really changed. It was a victim and abusing system in a big round dance, that you might call it, that the people who were oppressed for a long time, maybe they took over at some point, and then they became the oppressors instead. And that's how it's been going round and round and round for many, many centuries. But now, lately, things have actually changed, because the mass consciousness has risen to a dramatically higher level than it used to be at, not least in the last 10 years or so, and it will be increasing a lot more in the coming years too. So now we are seeing real fundamental change to the whole makeup of reality, the whole, basically everything, and a lot of people are afraid of that, especially those who have no clue what's going on. Many people on the what's called the left side, or the liberals, they are afraid of this because they have no clue, and it's triggering them all over the place and making them feel unsafe. And that's just how it is. And some people understand what's going on, especially if you understand energies and consciousness a little bit, then it makes more sense, because it gives you an overview. So now we are actually seeing, and many people are stuck in that old thinking that, oh no, it's everything is conspiracy, and Trump and these people are not really doing good, it's just a big trick, and they haven't understood that things really have changed. And I'm not saying that Trump is a super good very heart-based person at all. He's not. He's in the higher 200s on the scale of consciousness. He's a pretty hard, tough nut, and basically a guy who goes with his instinct, and and that's what he is. But he is good for the job he's doing, and he's not doing it alone. He has a lot of white hats in the system backing him up and helping him and all that. And all this is just a symptom of the change. These are agents. Trump and his people, they are agents of the change. They have been able to do all this because of the rising consciousness and awareness of a lot of people in the world. They're not the cause of the change, they're actually the symptom. The cause of the change on the causal plane is each individual has taken responsibility and has transformed their consciousness level and cleansed themselves from a lot of bullshit and negativity and false beliefs, and have risen in consciousness. And when a lot of people do that, it actually rises the whole mass consciousness, which again attracts or creates a reality, a physical reflection that also will reflect that change. And that is what we are seeing. So that is what people misunderstand. It's not about Trump, and he's sure thing. He's super funny to watch. He's really interesting, and he's doing a tremendous job. But he's still just a symptom, and I think even he knows it a little bit, because he's said in a certain speeches, he has said that he's just a messenger, and he's right. So that's how people can be inspired and can be sort of used by higher forces, good forces, to make the changes and that are necessary. And he is certainly a good example of that. So when it comes to changing the world, you have to go to the causal plane, which is basically your own subconscious and unconscious mind. And the more you change that, or the more you cleanse it out and get closer to your real actual self, which is pure consciousness, or your soul beyond the mind, obviously the more you will perceive a different reality. And collectively, if people do that, we will create a different world. And this is what we are doing and have been doing for some time now. But I think a lot of people in the movement don't really get this, and they think it's just some airy-fairy bullshit theory and spiritual nonsense. And yeah, I agree, it can seem like that, definitely. And but if you have any real experience with it, if you have actually gone through a real change in level of consciousness, you probably also experience that your life, your physical life, started to change afterwards. I mean, after it may be a little delay, but in a little while, a lot of stuff started to change in your life too. And you might, certain people you used to hang out with, you're not hanging out with anymore. Then maybe you have a different view of your family, and many other things have changed for you. Maybe you changed your job, even your country of residence. Maybe it's just, you cannot really know exactly how it will change reality. You just have to trust that it will become a better reflection for you as long as you go up the scale of consciousness, even though sometimes it might seem like it's not so fun, and a lot of challenges will come, because when you make these fundamental changes, you get a lot of things that come loose inside of you, sort of, and they might create challenges so you can get rid of even more stuff. So you're sort of on a roll. Once you start to open the Pandora's box, or once you get the dominoes rolling, you cannot really stop. You will continue to get challenges, and that's why it might seem like, hey, isn't it supposed to become better soon? I mean, so it can be a rough ride. It's not only easy, but in the end it will probably, or hopefully, pay off, right, when you actually reach a point where you don't have that much to cleanse out anymore, and it stabilizes and you feel a whole lot better. But right now everything is in a chaos. The whole world, not only for individuals or sensitive, but everything is changing so rapidly. It's a big chaotic mess, and it's tough on everybody who is here, but also especially tough on those who are sensitive and can sense energies and are connected to the whole planet, global, has a connection to the global consciousness, or what you want to call it, in a conscious way, which makes them feel, or at least sense, all the chaos that's going on, much more than people who just focus on their own lives and not really care too much or have that connection with the global system and consciousness. So that is how you change the world, not by, I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand, and you can take this literally and make an argument, but I'm not saying that you shouldn't go out and do stuff and help and do whatever you're inspired to do. That is part of it, obviously. That's how we create reality. But it is if you're doing it from a lower level of consciousness, then you are creating a reality that is reflection of that level of consciousness. So if you're doing something from level, let's say 180 on the scale, you're not, probably not, I mean, even if you have good intentions or think you have at that level, because you really don't. When you're down that low, you're hardly capable of good intentions. Even if you have good intentions you think you have, they are most likely tied up to some kind of ego trip. And so you might think you have good intentions and you're going to help or do something, but you're actually making things worse, because you have not, you're acting from a very low level of consciousness, a negative and a destructive level of consciousness. So yes, depending on which level you're at, you will be inspired to do different things and help out in different ways, and that's okay. But the main way to do anything is actually to raise your own level of consciousness, because obviously you will provide a much better service for the world if you're acting from, let's say, level 500 or something, instead of acting from level 250, right? And but whatever level you're at, you will be inspired to do something, and you will be contributing to manifesting a reality that is connected to that level which you're coming from. So in a future, when the split of these two major realities has settled in and finished, or at least come much further than today, when we are in the middle of the split, which I talk about in other videos, we have two camps. You have a camp of people who are too low to really have any chance to make it in this harvest or this ascension, and they will go to another plane, or they will sort of disappear into their own reality at some point. And at some point the people in the other camp who actually are ascending and increasing in consciousness, they will soon, or they will in some years, they will be the dominant force on the planet, and in even more time they will be the only people on the planet, where everybody will be much more in a harmonized and similar level, which will create a much more harmonic resonance and a much more harmonic world eventually. And so that is how it's all changing, and how we are changing reality, not by trying to force the reflection to become what we want it to be, which has been the old way. The new way is to first look at what is reflecting, and what is reflecting is the inside, your own subconscious and unconscious mind, and whatever is filled up with. That is what is reflecting and creating your reality, and contributing by your actions and your words and whatnot to the actual reality we share too. So that is my thoughts and my explanation of how you actually change the world on the causal plane, instead of trying to change it on the physical plane.